December 20th, 1940, northern Germany. A B-17 flying Fortress drifts through a pale winter sky. It is no longer in formation. It's no longer protected. Its fuselage is torn open. One engine is dead. Another is losing power.
When did a German fighter closes in?
The pilot already has 27 confirmed victories. One more will earn him the Knight's Cross. He lies his guns. But he does not fire. Hours earlier, the mission had begun over England.
Sunrise. Hundreds of bombers lifted from airfields across East Anglia.
They thought it was B-Language was B-2.
The third target was Bremen.
Shipyard. Surveyor contact quantum bomb.
Rail infrastructure.
The doctrine was daylight precision bombing.
Maintain altitude. Trust the defensive guns. This humble bomber was vulnerable. A formation of hundreds created overlapping fire. That was the theory. Reality was different. As the formation crossed the German coast, flak began immediately. Black bursts appeared at calculated altitudes. They adjusted fire quickly. Explosions shook the aircraft. Metal fragments sliced through aluminum skin.
The interior filled with smoke and noise.
Second Lieutenant Charlie Brown was flying his first combat mission. He was 21 years old. His aircraft was called Olde Pub. His crew had trained together.
They need to believe this. The maggots come back like this.
A shell detonated near the nose. The plexiglass shattered inward. Instruments flickered. The bomber dropped abruptly before Brown corrected the control. Then came the fighters. Messerschmitt Bf-109s attacked in coordinated passes. Some came head-on. Others dove from above. The sky filled with tracers. Brown's aircraft was struck again.
The vertical stabilizer took heavy damage.
Hydraulic pressure dropped.
In the tail section, Sergeant Hugh Eckenrode was killed instantly. 2 waist gunners were wounded. The ball turret jammed. The bomber shook continuously. The formation moved on. Olde Pub began to fall behind. Falling behind meant exposure. The protective crossfire disappeared. What remained was a damaged bomber flying alone over Germany. One engine had failed completely.
Second engine was losing power.
Only 3 of 11 guns still functioned. Inside the aircraft, wounded men tried to treat injuries while remaining at their stations. The aircraft responded slowly. Then the call came over the intercom. But Devon did not expect a rival. He expected the final burst of cannon fire.
An approaching fighter was flown by Oberleutnant Franz Stigler.
He had flown missions in North Africa. He had seen friends kill.
He understood what was required.
He had been refueling when he saw the crippled B-17 flying low and alone.
It was an easy target.
They took off immediately. From behind, he aligned his gun sight on the bomber's tail.
He expected defensive fire.
He saw none. He moved closer. The damage was worse than he anticipated. The tail section was merely severed. The fuselage was torn open. He could see movement inside. Wounded crew.
On metal surfaces.
It was not a fully functioning combat aircraft. It was barely airborne.
He had authority to fire.
Germany was under constant bombing. Every bomber destroyed reduced future destruction. One more confirmed kill meant recognition. He held position. He did not pull the trigger. Stigler held his position. He did not fire. Instead, he moved closer, close enough to see the damage clearly. The rear fuselage of the B-17 was ripped open. The tail was hanging at an unnatural angle. The bomber was flying slower than normal combat speed. Inside the aircraft, he could see movement. One crew member leaned over another. Someone tried to man a waist gun that no longer moved. There was no return fire.
Brown waited for impact.
He kept the nose level as best he could. He expected cannon shells to tear through the bomber at any moment. It did not. The German fighter slid up alongside the B-17. For several seconds, the 2 aircraft flew parallel. Engine noise filled the air. The sky was otherwise silent. Stigler looked across at the American cockpit. He could see the pilot clearly. focused.
Still fighting to keep the aircraft steady.
Stigler raised his hand. He made a downward motion. Surrender. It was the only outcome that would preserve life without further risk. Brown shook his head. He did not understand the gesture fully. Or perhaps he understood and refused. He pointed west. He intended to reach the North Sea. That decision changed the situation.
Ahead lay German coastal defenses.
Heavy flak batteries were positioned along the northern coastline.
Their task was simple.
Destroy incoming bomber.
If they saw a lone American aircraft lying damaged and low, they would fire immediately.
Stigler knew this. If he broke away now, the bomber would not survive the next few minutes. If he stayed close, he risked being seen escorting an enemy aircraft. Late 1943 was not a forgiving period in the Luftwaffe. Allied bombing raids had intensified. Hamburg had burned. Berlin was under repeated attack. Pilots were expected to defend aggressively. Each bomber destroyed meant fewer bombs over German cities. It was an official place for mercy. Still, he stayed. He positioned his Messerschmitt tightly beside the bomber's wing. Close enough that from the ground, the two aircraft might appear coordinated. From below, distance distorted detail.
Flat crews tracked targets by speed and silhouette.
The shape of two aircraft flying in close formation could suggest control rather than pursuit.
Seconds passed.
No shells rose.
Inside the B-17, the crew remained uncertain. Some believed the German pilot was waiting for the right angle. Others suspected his guns had malfunctioned. Brown sensed something else. The fighter was not maneuvering aggressively. It was matching speed. Holding position. The German coastline approached. The damaged bomber vibrated constantly.
Structural failure was possible at any moment.
Altitude remained low. Engines strained unevenly. The North Sea appeared ahead.
Wait, water under a pale sky.
If they could reach open water, the threat from ground batteries would end. Stigler remained beside the aircraft until the coastline passed beneath them.
Only then did he shift position slightly.
He looked once more toward the cockpit of the B-17. He raised his hand.
Like a
A brief salute. Brown responded with a small nod. No words were exchanged.
Stigler rolled his aircraft gently.
Then he banked away toward Germany. He did not look back.
The entire encounter had lasted only minutes.
Behind him, the crippled bomber continued west. 9 men were still alive. The Messerschmitt disappeared behind them. The sky felt empty again. But the danger was not over. The B-17 was still badly damaged.
One engine was gone.
Like shrapnel. The tail section vibrated with every adjustment. Brown focused on keeping the aircraft level.
They were still far from England.
Caught in the North Sea in a crippled bomber was not guaranteed survival. Inside the aircraft, the crew assessed their condition. 2 men were seriously wounded.
Blood loss was a concern.
Overheated through all sections of the fuselage.
Altitude was kept lower than normal to reduce stress on the structure. Lower altitude meant less margin for recovery if another engine failed. Fuel consumption had become uneven.
Engine strain increased.
Every minute felt uncertain.
Yet the aircraft remained airborne. Hours earlier, survival had seemed impossible. Now it seemed possible. Unlikely, but possible. The English coastline eventually appeared ahead. Ground crews at the airfield were not expecting Ye Olde Pub to return.
Several aircraft from the formation had failed to report.
When Brown radioed ahead, his voice was steady but controlled. He requested emergency landing clearance. The aircraft approached carefully.
Landing a damaged bomber required precision.
Hydraulic systems were unreliable. Structural weakness made abrupt movement dangerous. The wheels touched down hard. The bomber rolled to a stop. Engines shut down one by one. Silence followed.
Ground crews surrounded the aircraft quickly.
They stared at the damage. The tail was nearly severed. The fuselage was torn open in multiple places. Bullet holes lined the wings. Several crew members were removed for medical attention. Maintenance officers examined the aircraft and later stated it should not have remained airborne. It was written off.
Brown and his crew were taken for debriefing.
Standard procedure required detailed reporting. Enemy fighter encounters were documented carefully. Brown described the Messerschmitt. He explained that it had approached from behind. He explained that it had moved along Brown saw. He explained that it had not fired. The intelligence officer listening interrupted him. Brown did. The room remained quiet. The officer responded calmly. "We will not include that in your official report." The reasoning was direct. War required clarity. Enemy aircraft attacked.
Allied aircraft defended.
Stories of restraint complicated morale. If bomber crews believed German pilots might hesitate, they might hesitate themselves. If the public heard that enemy pilots showed mercy, propaganda lost strength. Understood? He agreed.
The official record omitted the encounter.
Among the crew, the story was spoken quietly.
But it did not, Franz.
Back in Germany, Stigler continued flying missions. He did not record the encounter in formal logs. He did not discuss it publicly. The Luftwaffe in late 1943 was under strain.
Fuel shortages worsened.
Losses increased. Allied fighters extended their range deeper into German airspace. Survival became harder with each passing month. A pilot who admitted sparing a bomber might face questioning. Intent mattered less than perception. Stigler chose silence. The war continued. Bombers returned. Cities burned. Pilots on both sides were lost in growing numbers. The incident over northern Germany became a private memory. Erased by Dane. Not forgotten.
But unrecorded.
Years later, both men would recall the same moment.
5, 2, and right. 5, 6.
No gunfire. No orders exchanged.
Just a decision. Just a decision made. At the time, it seemed small. After the war, it felt different.
9 minutes. Guess how it has neither must. Because 9 men had come home.
And none of them fully understood why. The war ended in 1945. Johnny Brown returned to the United States. He resumed civilian life. He married. He built a career. He raised children. Outwardly, the war became a chapter behind him. But certain dates remained clear.
December 20th was one of them.
Each year, as the day approached, he remembered the sky over Germany. He remembered the damaged bomber. He remembered the German fighter sliding into position. He remembered the expected burst of fire that never came. He understood something simple. He should not have survived.
Statistically, his aircraft should have been destroyed.
Structurally, it should have broken apart. Frankly, the German pilot should have fired. 9 men should not have come home. But they did. The question remained, why? For years, Brown did not actively search for the answer. Life moved forward. Responsibilities grew. The memory stayed, but quietly. In the late 1980s, something changed. Brown began speaking more openly with his family about the encounter. He described the damaged aircraft. He described the German pilot's face. He described the salute over the North Sea. The more he spoke about it, the more the question returned. Who was he?
What happened to him?
Did he survive the war? Brown decided to search. He contacted Veterans Association. He reached out to aviation groups in Europe. He wrote letters describing the mission date and location. He described the damage to his aircraft. He mentioned the Knight's Cross detail, hoping it might narrow the field. Months passed. Few responses came. Records from late war Luftwaffe units were incomplete. Many pilots had died. Others had emigrated. Some did not wish to revisit the past, but the such appeared unlikely to succeed. But Brown continued. The effort was not dramatic. It was steady.
He followed leads.
He waited. We got him. Put it in. Across the Atlantic, Franz Stigler had built a new life.
After the war, he had emigrated to Canada.
Germany was devastated.
Rebuilding required distance.
He settled in Vancouver. He worked in aviation-related fields. He rarely spoke publicly about his wartime service. The memory of December 20th remained personal. It was not framed as defiance. It was simply a decision. Years passed without connection. Then, in 1990, a letter reached Stigler.
It described the B-17 damaged over in northern Germany.
It mentioned a German fighter that had left fight. It mentioned a search. Stigler recognized the date immediately. December 20th, 1943. He remembered the damaged tail. He remembered the wounded crew. He remembered choosing not to shoot. He responded. His letter was direct. He stated that he believed he was the pilot in question. He included his name, Franz Stigler. When Brown received the reply, decades of uncertainty ended in a single moment. The search had not been in vain. The man existed. He had survived. Arrangements were made to meet. The location chosen was Florida, neutral ground. When they finally stood face to face, both men were in their 60s. Time had changed them physically, but memory remained intact. There were no uniforms.
No kinetic posture.
Right. No tension. Only recognition. For a few seconds, neither spoke. Stigler broke the silence. Oh, Brown answered calmly.
You were the reason we made it home.
The encounter was not loud. It was not theatrical. It was direct. Two men acknowledging a shared moment that had altered their lives. They embraced.
Not as symbol.
Not as former enemies, but
as in
who understood what had almost happened. After their meeting, Brown and Stigler remained in contact. They spoke often. They appeared together at aviation gatherings.
They told the story calmly.
Without exaggeration. They described what happened and what did not happen. Stigler never framed his decision as heroic. He did not describe it as rebellion. He described it as a line he could not cross. To understand that line, it helps to consider the air war in 1943.
The Air Force was suffering heavy losses.
Long-range escort fighters had not yet fully extended protection deep into Germany.
Bomber crews often flew hundreds of miles exposed.
Some missions lost dozens of aircraft.
Survival rates dropped sharply after repeated sorties.
For many crews, completing a full combat tour was statistically unlikely.
German pilots faced pressure of a different kind.
The Allied bombing campaigns intensified each month.
Hamburg had burned in Operation Gomorrah. Berlin was under repeated attack.
Industrial production was targeted daily.
Each bomber destroyed meant fewer bombs over German cities. Each interception mattered. Recognition came through confirmed victory. The Knight's Cross was not symbolic. It was tangible. It meant status. It meant validation. On December 20th, Stigler was one victory away from that recognition. He had tactical justification to fire. He had operational reason to fire. He chose not to. That choice did not alter the war. It did not reduce bombing campaigns. It did not change strategy.
But it changed 9 lives.
It preserved 9 futures.
It preserved families.
It preserved decades that would not have existed otherwise. Brown understood that fully only later. At the time, survival felt like relief. Years later, it felt different.
It felt intentional.
The absence of gunfire became the defining detail. History often records destruction. Explosions, casualty count, strategic victory. Less often does it record restraint. Moments when destruction was possible and did not occur. The encounter over northern Germany lasted minutes. No cameras captured it. No official citation recorded it. For decades, it existed only in memory. Yet its effect endured. 2 former enemies became friends.
Children and grandchildren met because of a decision made in second.
War demands obedience. Orders are followed.
Arcades are engaged.
For the celebrated B-17, engineered by the Boeing Corporation. But within those systems, individuals still decide. Toto decided, he assessed the situation. He evaluated the risk. He recognized vulnerability. He chose not to pull the trigger. That choice required no speech. No audience. It required only restraint. On December 20th, 1943, 2 aircraft met at altitude. One was damaged beyond expectation. The other held the advantage. The outcome seemed predetermined.
A German fighter pilot could have secured a medal.
Instead, he secured something less visible.
On the survival of 9 men.
and the knowledge that even in total war, humanity can remain intact. The winter sky closed over them. The sea lay silent below. Engines faded into distance. The war continued. But for a brief moment above a frozen coastline, destruction paused.
And 9 men lived.